Various MTF squads deactivated their cloaking devices and dragged Nappa near Vegeta's scouter, sending him into the same place. They smashed the scouter, entrapping both of them within. A cheer could be heard from all of their earpieces as a crisis was averted for the time being. The Saiyans were thrown into a ruined city. Vegeta did not know what kind of trick they were playing on him, but he didn't like it, nor did he like the way Nappa was reaching out at him. Clearly, the warrior had his back demolished, but the prince spared no sympathy. He took his hand, launched him into the air, and disintegrated him in a blast of spite that'll teach him to fall in front of him. Ignorant to the SCP's Foundation's assets, the Prince of All Saiyans found himself in a dilapidated city. He began flying throughout the city, seeing various interesting displays of carnage and brutality. The most haunting to him was the destroyed flag of the Frieza army. Various skeletons of Frieza soldiers were strewn about the city, clutching onto them the flag of the evil tyrant Frieza. SCP-093 is a stone red disc. It will change colors depending on the individual that holds it. The colors seem to represent the regrets of the user. If it is not on a mirror-like surface, it will quickly seek one out, accelerating at insane speed until it reaches one. Upon contact, no damage is dealt, but it does open up a portal to another dimension based on the aforementioned color. The dimension in question is plagued by shadow beings and monstrosities, but the worst seems to come from the psychological trauma that it causes. Vegeta's color on contact was a light purple, and it seems to alter time because from the perspective of the Foundation, as soon as the prince went in, just as quickly he came out. But first, let's see what really transpired with Vegeta. Just being inside this dimension made Vegeta feel on edge. Paranoia gripped his mind as he struggled to identify any enemies lurking around. With no scouter and no sense of direction, the Saiyan prince began to wander around in his desolate landscape, getting bothered by strange figures lurking in the background and sparse evidence of Frieza's army somewhere around here. Did they send me off planet? Was he near Frieza? The Saiyan prince pondered this, but no clear evidence came forth to clear his doubt. Enough of this, he thought to himself. I'll just reassess from space. As he began flying, he felt a fog thicken around him and start to weigh on him. As he ascended, he felt the fog start to weigh in on him, making it much more difficult to break through the atmosphere. The sky had very little light emanating from it. He felt a shadow cross over him, a big one, almost blocking out every source of light around him. He could make out a silhouette. A gigantic humanoid was beyond the fog. Vegeta never heard the slow hand moving towards him, but he did feel the impact as a gigantic fist slammed into him with great force, cracking his armor and sending him flying back down to the surface of this peculiar world. He caught a glimpse of the hand, a brownish red of sorts. He crashed back on the surface, wounded and gasping for air. Suddenly, he felt another hand tug at his arm as it gripped him and pulled him close. A smaller, yet still deadly, half-bodied humanoid looked down on him and bit into the prince. Vegeta quickly expelled energy from his body and blew the creature away as the Saiyan prince regained his composure. What were these creatures? The creature wailed at Vegeta as it crawled towards him, much faster than what he anticipated. The Saiyan warrior quickly hurled energy blast at it, peppering it with holes. The creature wailed much louder, but did not slow down. The prince cupped his hands and sent out a Gallic gun, consuming the creature in the beam, evaporating it from existence. Days passed by as he floated around the city, eating whatever he could find and killing these half-bodied beings until he couldn't take the sanity loss anymore. He couldn't sleep and he couldn't think, but most importantly, his ego was damaged. Did they think they could just lock him away in this hell dimension and be rid of him? Him, the Prince of all Saiyans? He decided then he would not waste a single second in here. He flew back up into the fog to confront the gigantic being he had faced before. Fists and energy beams were exchanged in this confrontation. This monster was about the size of a small country, and it was floating on top of the thick fog, which made it harder for Vegeta to fight in. He was slower, weaker, and much more frustrated. but his pride to be the best was what kept pushing him forward. He had time to think. In that form, he knew that Kakarot had tapped into that legendary form, and he had to have it as well. Was Kakarot also fighting these monstrosities? If so, he wouldn't pull his punches. He would show him and every single one of his caretakers who exactly the Prince of all Saiyans is. Hours, or perhaps days had passed. The prince did not know, but he was again repeatedly thrown back into the ground, and again he kept rising until he finally was able to destroy this being in a ferocious show of power, elevating his ki output to a level never before felt by him. Nearly reaching his elusive form, he was able to crack the very fabric of reality as he screamed at the top of his lungs. He cupped his hands and finally unleashed his final flash, beating SCP-093 not only in its monsters, but somehow ripping a dimensional hole and leaping through it, leading him back to where he was first, sealed away. Beneath his feet, in what he believed to be a barren, rocky wasteland, began to slide open, revealing a mammoth cavity. It was filled with seawater and expanded deep, connecting into the ocean. The anxiety and paranoia came back to him, but much worse. Beneath the water, he could somehow begin to sense an entity. This sixth sense he was developing. It worked almost like a scouter, but much more intrusive in his mind. Vegeta began to scramble for answers as whatever was coming from the surface was getting closer and closer until he could see a shadow beneath the waves. He felt fear, the same fear that conquered his mind while in the presence of his oppressor. In a crash of waves and teeth, a giant eel barged through the opening and swallowed the prince whole and took him into the depths. SCP-3000 is a colossal sea creature with an undetermined length that best resembles a moray eel. It secretes a compound that induces memory loss or alteration. Although sustenance isn't needed, it is still a predator that can dispatch prey at high speeds despite its length. While near it, individuals will experience a sense of pain, paranoia, fear, and panic, and above all else, memory loss. It is theorized to consume the spark of human consciousness. Interactions with the Saiyan race is yet to be determined. Vegeta felt himself slipping further and further into the belly of the beast. He was already battered from his ordeal with SCP-093, and being thrown into another battle wasn't ideal for him. He was fatigued, in pain, in darkness, and in fear. Yet, he still had his pride, and he could still fight. He began powering up, and began building up ki in his hand. From his palm came a light, a ball of sorts, comprised of the same energy that the moon gave off. He held it in his palm of his hands, and felt it, that same power that gripped Goku when he first landed, now the Saiyan Prince. This primordial power to destroy. He began growing larger and larger within SCP-3000 until the serpentine creature found it hard to contain him. With a laser from the Ozaru's mouth, he tore a gaping hole right into SCP-3000 in order to escape. But the main problem was that he was underwater and felt the pressure start to build up as the body of SCP-3000 wrapped around his leg and began dragging him deeper and deeper into darkness. But perhaps due to his own artificial moon still stuck within the eel, or the fact that the paranoia began to take a hold of Vegeta, he could sense the creature in the darkness, and he could tell his power level. And although near invincible, it did not surpass the prince. Instead of running away and returning to the surface, Vegeta began swimming towards it. It coiled its body on the prince, but he didn't care. He knew he could win. He slammed his body on the creature and began biting it and clawing, trying to damage it. SCP-3000 let out a wail that increased his panic and fear. Vegeta began to forget what he was doing here or what he was fighting, but all he had to know was that whatever he was fighting, it was his enemy, and it needed to die. And the training drilled into the prince since his birth did not falter. He further wrestled the creature, ripping into its body and spilling its blood. The eel tried to circle around and bite into the giant monkey, causing Vegeta to lose oxygen The pressure was immense underwater, and he was further dragged down. He could feel his head begin to collapse. He had to finish this right now. Vegeta bit back and fired an energy blast so powerful that it ripped the serpent in half. But the creature did not let up. It further sank its jaws into the flesh that saw many battles and did not let go. The air in the lungs of the prince was exhausted, and his mind began to drown in thoughts of fear and death. He cupped his hairy hands and fired one last time his Gallic gun. It tore SCP-3000's body further into pieces as it finally let go of the Saiyan warrior. The blast escaped the water, traveled far into space, creating a spectacle for half of that side of the hemisphere. Vegeta quickly began to fly up, gasping for air. He roared in fury as he filled his lungs with air. It hurt every time he breathed, thanks to his collapsed ribcage. The creature gave one last surprise attack and chomped on the Saiyan's tail. The prince lost his Ozaru form. He saw SCP-3000 finally succumb to its wounds, and he sank into the abyss from which it came. The prince made it back on land, exhausted beyond belief and seemingly at the mercy to whoever was waiting for him. He begins vomiting up seawater, and his memories slowly start to return to him. His escape is blocked from all sides as NTF squads fill the gaps. Soldiers point their guns at the prince, daring him to make a move. He couldn't, even if he wanted to. All of his energy was expended, though he thinks he could kill all of them if he really tried. But did they have another monster for him to fight? He would surely die. Before he could conclude his decision on attacking, he was littered with tranquilizers all over his body, finally putting an end to his rampage and mayhem. Thanks for watching. The saga will continue eventually. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. You won't regret it.